My name is Lisa Schirch, and I am a professor of peace building at Eastern Mennonite University, and I direct the 3D Security Initiative. So right now we have a project trying to lay out a civil society military roadmap on human security, trying to find out where our common ground is, where our differences are, and how we find ways of communicating about the tensions and differences in our approaches on the ground, while we also look at possibilities for collaboration in areas like security sector reform, because NGOs have models of community police training, they have models for demobilization, reintegration of armed groups back into civilian life. And there's an overlap there in terms of what the military is trying to achieve and what civil society groups are trying to achieve. So we're trying to figure out, just a roadmap is really just describing where are the issues that we can work in the years ahead. It's not posing the solutions to all of them, but saying here's an agenda for our conversations together. Because right now what's happening is on the ground in Afghanistan, for example, where I'm working, the PRTs are looking at NGOs, trying to find them, looking at them as implementing partners in the final stage of COIN, or counterinsurgency, in the build phase. So, or shape, clear, hold, build, and looking at NGOs in that final build stage. And many NGOs resist being brought in at the end. What they'd rather have is a conversation up front about what's really happening here on the ground. Most of the NGOs that I work with are Afghan or Iraqi, so they know the language, they know the religion and the culture, and they've been working on these issues for decades. And it seems strange to them and me that they haven't been consulted or brought in as advisors on now when the military wants to do these same things. And so we're trying to open up the channel so that they can get in a bit earlier in the conversation as the U.S. or ISAF or the coalition forces are trying to figure out how to do DDR, how to do SSR in these contexts. NGOs have been doing these activities for a long time, and they have ideas about how to do them effectively. So that's what we're trying to get them in a bit earlier for that policy level discussion. And we brought in NGOs from all over the world that are already cooperating or communicating very clearly with their military. So in the Philippines, for example, NGOs and the military have active dialogue. Military personnel attend peacebuilding institutes there, have learned the language of the peacebuilding NGO community, and vice versa. So when there are standoffs now, both sides have phone numbers to call, and they can work out problems directly through those relationships. In East Africa, NGOs are trying to work with the military on a variety of different issues, but sometimes there are problems, so they've established the NGOs award the Best Military Personnel of the Year award to try to sort of reward where they see the cooperation happening and try to get the relations moving in that direction. So there's a lot of interesting work going on in other countries between NGOs and their own military. If we really want to have a 3D strategy here in the United States, we need to fund development and diplomacy to a much greater degree, because right now Congress appropriates a huge amount for defense and very little relative to diplomacy and development. Much more unbalanced than other developed countries like Canada, and European countries invest far more in development and diplomacy as security strategies, as thinking long-term about how do you prevent violence and get at the root causes of a lot of the turmoil happening in countries around the world. And so most of the message to Congress is, if we want to have a more effective security strategy and a less expensive security strategy, we have to find our resources bolstered in development and diplomacy. We don't have enough foreign service officers. We don't have enough development experts in the U.S. government. The military is starting to do these activities precisely because USAID and State Department don't have enough staff. And I know military personnel who also go to the Hill with that same message, and sometimes we even try to coordinate on the Hill to say, here the NGOs and the military saying the same thing to Congress, is you're not funding State Department and USAID enough. We need more experts in diplomacy and development. The other key message I give to Congress is that local NGOs, again, are far more effective and more cost-effective than hiring U.S. contractors to go into a situation and build a school. Local NGOs have been building schools and doing health projects, setting up health clinics for decades all over the world. And we have the experience about how you do this in a sustainable way that involves the community, that's culturally sensitive. And local NGOs, they know the language, the culture, the politics. They can be much more agile and do things in a much more cost-effective way. So it's in the U.S. interest to find ways of working with them and vetting the legitimate NGOs and vetting out the ones that are not legitimate, because that's what the hardest thing is. But USAID needs the staff, and they used to have it, to have much better relationships with people on the ground, to monitor these projects, to find the NGOs that are doing the good work. And so that's what we're telling Congress, is you need to establish that vetting system again and work more directly with the local people who know the language and the culture and the politics, because it's far more effective and sustainable in the long run and achieves U.S. objectives if local NGOs are involved, because it makes sense to support local people as they try to develop their own context.